And this is Expand Your Horizon Preview Edition for the games, starting on Wednesday, January 28th, 2026, and ending on Sunday, February 1st, 2026. I am Bob McDonald, and joining me is my co-host, Jim Sarro.
Hey, Bob, we have a couple of teams that have a gigantic opportunity this week to really make some ground up in the standings. I'm really excited to talk about the games. There's not a lot of games, but we've got some great ones to preview this week.
Indeed, we do. And of course, Expand Your Horizon Preview Edition is sponsored by the Horizon League, who reminds you to make your plans to be in Indy March 8th through the 10th for the 2026 Barbasol Horizon League Basketball Championships. After you get all the insights from us here at the Horizon Roundtable, visit horizonleague.com for championships information, merchandise, life in the league stories, Golden Hour content, and much more. Remember, March starts here in Indianapolis at Corteva Coliseum, March 8th through the 10th. Jim, before we get started on the games, I do want to point out the fact that the t-shirts that premiered last year for all of the Horizon League schools, with the old school logos and everything that were done in partnership with the Shop Indy, those are on the still on the merch site. So if you remember all those old school logos, they're there. Go buy them.
You order them now, you will have them in plenty of time to wear them at the Corteva Coliseum in March, and wear them you should.
You most definitely should. So, all right, well, let's go ahead and get started with the Wednesday, January 28th games. Both of them are at 7 o'clock, so let's start with IU Indy heading over to Robert Morris. And hopefully this one goes off again, because the IU Indy was supposed to play Purdue Fort Wayne on Sunday. That did not happen because of the inclement weather that was pretty much raging on most of the East Coast. So, which means IU Indy is they beat Oakland, so hey, they've got a little bit of momentum there, and hey, maybe they can take that into UPMC to run with that. And oh, by the way, this is going to be not the first time. I know Robert Morris is going to also be looking for revenge too, by the way, because the other game that IUND, the only other game that IUND has won is against Robert Morris.
Yeah, this is a big opportunity for Robert Morris because at 5-6 in league play, they need this victory, and
Yeah.
IU Indy is coming to them at playing some much improved basketball. Stylistically, you have fastest team in the country versus the 287th tempo in Robert Morris. So the key for Robert Morris is to play their game and not turn the ball over. In the first meeting, they shot the ball well enough to win, but they had a boatload of turnovers. So now they've seen the press. They're going to be at home in this particular game. And how they handle that is going to be the difference in this game or not. I mean, you have the best team in rebounding margin going against one of the worst rebounding teams. So even if you're not making your first shot, going and getting the rebound and getting your second shot or third shot and just keep going until you get a bucket, that's what we're going to need to see from Robert Morris in this one.
Yes, absolutely. All right, well, let's move on to the other 7 p.m. Eastern game, and that is Oakland and Purdue Fort Wayne. This is actually the first time these two teams are meeting this year. And, well, I mean, Oakland, they lost to IUND, but they beat Detroit Mercy for I don't know how many of time at Callahan Hall, but it's been a while since Detroit Mercy has beaten Oakland. But now they're going to Purdue Fort Wayne, and I feel like this is a really good matchup, especially the way these two teams line up. I feel like Oakland certainly has the edge as far as the front court is concerned. They kind of got caught flat-footed against IUND, but they certainly came back against Detroit Mercy, and I feel like that's going to be work to their advantage here against the Mastodons.
Yeah, think about the Mastodons, that point about front court advantage. They are number 11 in the league in rebounding margin, almost 7 rebounds a game. They get out-rebounded. But they are a very good three-point shooting team, improving each and every week. They're number 4 in conference play on three-point field goals at 35.6%. Both teams are going to play fast. They're going to want to score. Oakland, really good at sharing the ball. They have the second best assist to turnover ratio in the league. Not so good at playing defense, as they have the second worst defensive field goal percentage at 48%. Expect a lot of points. If you're a gambler, whatever the over is, I'm going for the over. But this is going to be a very good game. And is this the first time they played, or did they play in December in the
No, this is
arena?
I believe this is the first time they played, and let me double. I'm pretty sure that this is the first time they played this year. Let me double check. But I will say this: Purdue Fort Wayne's on a 5-game winning streak, and you are correct. They actually, I'm sorry, this is not the first time they've seen each other because Purdue Fort Wayne lost by 19 in Oakland. So yeah, they're on a 5-game winning streak, and they are definitely looking for some revenge. And but again, I think that that front court advantage, they definitely had the advantage in Oakland. I think they're going to have that same advantage here in Fort Wayne.
Yeah, but you think about for Fort Wayne, the opportunity that they have. This is at home. They're 7-3 in the league. Oakland currently sitting at 8-3. Massive game for Fort Wayne. This is, they have this opportunity because Fort Wayne's gonna play at home both games this week, and they
Mhm.
have a tremendous opportunity to make some ground up in the standings here. And they're getting, in the case of Oakland, they're getting the team that they need, the team that's sitting right in front of them by half a game. Um, they've got an opportunity to to pull ahead of them in the standings. So this is massive, massive opportunity for the
Oh yeah,
Mastodons, and one that any Horizon League fan, if you're available, when that one tips off, get it on your ESPN Plus machine if you can.
absolutely, absolutely. All right, well, let's move on to Friday. The Friday games on January 30th. We got IU Indy again. They are heading to Youngstown State to play the Penguins. Last time these two teams met, Youngstown State didn't have a problem beating them by about 23. And you'd have thought at that point in time, Youngstown State would be way higher in the standings than they are. As it stands right now, this is a game where Youngstown State might absolutely needs a win to avoid um, being in a tie for last place. I didn't
Before
think I'd
Jared
say
helped,
that. Really, that's a statement I never thought I'd say, but
who was the
here we
older
are.
guy that was coaching Youngstown before Calhoun? Jerry something or
That
other.
would be Jared. That would be Jerry
Slocum.
Slocum.
Jerry Slocum. Like the fact that Youngstown State is in Jerry Slocum territory again is definitely not anything I expected to see this season. And this particular game is one that they're gonna need to get to keep some space because they're 3-8 in league play. IU Indy is 2-9. So I mean, if they get this W, they're gonna go to 4-8, and Indy's gonna be 2-10. I mean, there'll be a 2-game separation there versus being tied in the standings. So it's a massive game for the Penguins. And for the Penguins, like to me, it just comes down to protecting the ball and shooting at a reasonable rate. When they do that, they did that against Green Bay, they won. They didn't do that against Milwaukee 2 days later, they lost. So, and they've had turnover issues this season, and they've had some icicled. I mean, I get they're the Penguins, so like they like the cold conditions, but you don't need to be frigid every time you're shooting 3-pointers. So that's where I see the game. IU Indy improved effort, improved everything, but still, I mean, not doing anything at a super high level. They're just competing now. They're right there. They're nipping on win at more and more wins. So it's gonna be a pretty entertaining game.
Sure. All right. Well, next up is the 7 p.m. Eastern game. You'll probably be at this game because it's going to be Cleveland State playing Green Bay. And when these two teams met at the Wolstein Center, Green Bay pulled out the win. Definitely was able to, you know, take whatever Cleveland State was dishing out. Cleveland State, of course, um, just coming off a win. I don't know if the week and a half off is going to affect them at all. But the last time they were on the court, they beat Wright State, which makes me wonder if we're in the upside down. But yeah, and hopefully Cleveland State has used this week and a half to get their guys healthy because they're still dealing with the on and off injury issues with Josiah Harris. They were Priest Ryan has been dealing with an ankle issue, and I feel like they need these guys in this game especially, and I feel like they absolutely need to uh, definitely need them, especially when it comes to the glass, because amazingly enough, against a team like Wright State, who could have easily dominated them on the glass, Cleveland State was able to hold their own, and they were able to hold their own with a bunch. Well, not just smaller guys, but with Dan Nessa, who, by the way, was Player of the Week this week.
That's awesome. He had a massive game when he had 31 against Wright State.
He did.
Yeah, awesome. Well deserved for Nessa. And well, kind of fulfilling the promise of when he committed to them, kind of as an undervalued transfer. It's awesome to see him get the Player of the Week. In this particular game, though, the thing that stands out to me, Cleveland State now returns to number one in conference play in three-point shooting after a couple of really good games are at 37.7%. And Green Bay has really slipped on their three-point field goal defense. They were as low as 31% a few weeks ago. They're up to 36% after Youngstown State just obliterated them. Young and Robert Morris shot well against them from deep as well. So Green Bay needs to defend the 3-point line. Cleveland State also doesn't. They are actually worst in turnover margin. They're negative almost 3 per game.
Yeah.
And Green Bay is really good at executing. Green Bay sneaky offense. They have the third best offensive efficiency according to KenPom at 134 in the country. So Green Bay really picked them apart in the Wolstein Center and didn't make mistakes and just always finds their guys and gets the ball to where it needs to be and gets good looks. So for Green Bay, it's defend the 3-point line and just continue to get shots. Don't turn the ball over, because when they protect the ball and get shots, they're a really good offensive team. So
Absolutely.
but yes, I will be at that one.
All right. Well, moving on, we're going to Northern Kentucky. They're playing Detroit Mercy, and wow, it's like 2 weeks. It's like 2 weeks ago. These two teams played in Highland Heights at Truist Arena, and Northern Kentucky didn't have a problem beating Detroit Mercy by 25. That tends to help when Detroit Mercy that that bad 3-point shooting that hurt him again in that last game. I mean, when you're shooting 28.8 for 28, that's not a good recipe for you. Especially since, and the other thing too with Northern Kentucky, they were able to keep, they were able to have a little bit of an edge on the glass, which Detroit Mercy has been really good at recently. And so just keeping that in stride, that's fine. And the other thing too, I feel like this, in spite of the fact that Northern Kentucky is, there is a defensive team. The last time these two teams played, there weren't that many turnovers. They only caused 7 turnovers on Detroit Mercy, and so they're definitely gonna. So I feel like keeping them off the. I feel like with Northern Kentucky, keeping Detroit Mercy off of the 3-point line, or keeping them on the line, and making sure they don't hit any. I feel like it's going to be a big key for them.
When you look at the Norse, like, they don't stand out in any statistical category. They're just kind of good at everything. So they're a tough team to, you know, beat. But then because they're not great at anything, that's how they ended up at currently with a record of 6-5 in conference play. They're just good and they're a tough out. I think for Detroit Mercy, they just lost 2 at home over the past weekend, and now they're at home again for this game against Northern Kentucky. I feel like you can get out the shock paddles if they don't get this win. They're going to have a 3-game home losing streak. 5-6, they're kind of in the middle of that pack, and they really need to get this righted here. So this is a big opportunity for the Titans to turn some things around. But yeah, it doesn't bode well when you've already gotten your tail kicked by these guys. What did you say the final score was? The final margin of victory was?
It was 90, I believe, 96-71, I want to say. 96-71, yeah.
Yeah. So Detroit needs to do some work. You see the signs of improvement with Detroit, and yet now at home, coming off of 2 games lost in a row at home, this is a big one for the Titans.
Absolutely. All right, well, the last game on Friday night is going to be an 8 p.m. Eastern affair. It's going to be Wright State at Milwaukee. Milwaukee did not do very well at the Nutter Center the last time these two teams met. And Milwaukee, I guess big question for them is, are they going to get some guys in the front court back? Are Faison Fields and Danil Jovanovic, are we going to see them? Because they're going to need them, especially for this particular game. now that Wright State appears to be, it looks like they're back at full strength, with Michael Cooper back in the lineup and everything. But they get kind of hit by surprise by losing to Cleveland State, and so I feel like this is gonna but Wright State had Milwaukee's number when they were at the Nutter Center, and maybe I feel like Milwaukee is going to definitely need to make some adjustments to keep that from happening again for sure.
Well, Milwaukee is not really a great defensive team. Wright State's a great offensive team. I mean, Wright State offensive efficiency is 118 according to Ken Pom. Milwaukee's defense is 272 in the country. You see it. Milwaukee's had trouble defending the 3-point line. They've given up 36%, which is 10th in the league. Overall, Wright State's the best shooting team in the league. So they're going to have their work cut out for them. But the thing that, we've said it before, anybody who comes through Wisconsin and has to play both teams, it's been historically difficult to get a sweep. A split is, a good trip. Oakland just came through and got a sweep, a week and a half ago. So we'll see what Wright State does, because these are the kind of games now that they're going to need if they want to stay at the top of the league. This is the kind that they need to go on the road and get. So that's where that's going to be a big one for the Raiders. But I do like them at full strength. And you see Cooper, first game back, he was a little rusty, a little bit better in the second game. Still not back in the starting lineup yet. So that kind of there's still some juice there for Wright State to turn it on in the last 10 games of the conference play for them.
All right. Well, before we get into the weekend games, well, I want to remind you all once again to make your plans to be in Indy March 8th through the 10th for the 2026 Barbasol Horizon League Basketball Championships. After you get all the insights from us here at the Horizon Roundtable, visit horizonleague.com for championships information, merchandise, life in the league stories, golden hour content, and much more. Remember, March starts here in Indianapolis at Corteva Coliseum, March 8th through the 10th. And so we got one game on Saturday, January 31st, and it is Robert Morris heading to Purdue Fort Wayne. Last time these two teams met at Moon Township, Purdue Fort Wayne got the best of Robert Morris. I feel like Robert Morris definitely needs to get some revenge on the road, but it's not going to be easy.
Not going to be easy. You have, in the case of Robert Morris, the best rebounding margin in the league, going up against Purdue Fort Wayne, the worst rebounding margin in the league. So there's your opportunity for Robert Morris. Get on the glass, pound the glass, pound the glass. Neither of these teams are particularly great defensively. A little bit, Robert Morris likes to slow it down a little bit more than Purdue Fort Wayne does, but I mean, not at a snail's pace. And by the same token, Fort Wayne's not exactly an all fast break team. So it's going to be an interesting game. I feel like, having just watched Green Bay play Robert Morris, Al Vargas, he really had it. And he's a great player. I picked him as an all-conference preseason player. He really struggled at the big time of the finish. And he had 3 turnovers. Mm-hmm. Maybe got fouled a couple times. But Coach Toole definitely thought he got fouled a couple times. But at the end of the day, they're going to need really good guard play. They're going to get the rebounds, but are they going to have some guard play to match up against the big guards for Purdue Fort Wayne? But it should be a good game. But for Fort Wayne, just massive week. You've got Oakland at home, Robert Morris at home. You're 7-3 in third place in the league. 2 wins puts you to 9-3. I mean, that's going to, pretty much insulate you from the mid pack of this league unless you have a total collapse. So this is a huge opportunity for the Mastodons.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Without a doubt. All right. Well, let's move on to Sunday, February 1st. Wright State is finishing out its Wisconsin trip by heading up to Green Bay. And I feel like Green Bay is going to want a little bit of revenge for the beating that Wright State put on Green Bay at the Nutter Center, for sure. Oh, that thing was brutal the last time.
It was brutal.
Better.
It was brutal. This is the kind of team that Green Bay struggles against, though. If you think about some of the games where they have not played well and got their doors blown off, Campbell shot really well from 3 and pounded them on the glass. St. Thomas really shot well. You have Wright State pounded them on the glass. Oakland pounded them on the glass. Like the 4 or 5 times where Green Bay has really looked stupid this year have come against teams. Wright State was one of the teams that come against teams with a similar kind of makeup. So Green Bay is going to have some resolve here because their offensive execution is good. Their rebounding is much improved, but at the end of the day, they don't have necessarily the same level of dudes that Wright State has, and so that's just going to come down to togetherness, toughness, heart, because you're not going to grow 2 inches and add 20 pounds of muscle between now and Sunday. So it's all going to be about some other things. But again, just like Purdue Fort Wayne has a tremendous opportunity, Green Bay has a tremendous opportunity. 2 games at home. They're 7-4 in the league. Getting 2 wins puts them to 9-4, creates a ton of space for them to have a top 4 or 5 finish in this league and still have a realistic chance at the championship. And conversely, 2 losses and you're in defibrillator territory. So
Correct.
big opportunity for the Phoenix on Sunday when they get first place
Yeah,
Wright
I
State.
feel like one of the other things with Green Bay as we're looking. I mean, first of all, that game at the Nutter Center was a couple of months ago, so a lot has changed since then. One of the things that Green Bay is certainly going to need to do, they're going to have to cut down the turnovers because they had 18 against Wright State and it just killed them. Also, not only did they not hit that many 3-pointers, they didn't get any opportunities to shoot them. They only shot the 3-point. They only shot 12, had 12 shots beyond the arc. They didn't even really have any opportunities beyond the arc, and that killed them too because they only made 3 of them. So, and I feel the other part of this too is now in the first game, to your point, there was a lot. I felt like Wright State did actually have the advantage on the glass. I feel like Green Bay has improved a little bit, especially now that we're seeing a lot more out of Ramel Bethea. I feel like he
Yeah,
is, yeah, because he only played like 6 minutes in that first game, and he's been playing a lot more recently. He's been doing very good. I feel that he's much improved over the course of since these 2 teams last met.
yeah. Ramel Bethea has really come on and just started to like figure out how to play basketball at a Division 1 level. He's been really good finishing around the rim. He creates backside lob opportunities. He gets down the dunker spot, and as everybody
Mhm.
stops the penetration that's coming from whether it's O'Hara or Reedinger or Justin Allen, and then you've got a 6'9" guy that can fly to the rim. He's creating tremendous pressure on the rim. He is a shot blocking force and shot alter. He does have a little bit of a fall issue. Mainly, I think that comes from like a lack of just overall strength. I mean, he's 6'9", 190 pounds. And while I know that he works tremendously hard on it, again, my point is he's not going to become 220 pounds by Sunday. So occasionally guys will, put their shoulder into him and just kind of back him down and collapse him down until he, commits a foul. We saw in the Youngstown game, a couple guys did that to him. I think he fouled out of the Robert Morris game as well. So he's come on strong. Matawan Cicic was hurt. He had an ankle injury, I believe. He's not necessarily come on strong, but he's back to playing. So there's some bigger bodies for them to rely on. For Green Bay, though, it's about Caden Wilkins in my mind because
Yeah.
Caden Wilkins, he's like a streak everything, like streak rebounder, streak shooter. I mean, he'll have games with 0 rebounds. He'll have games with 10 rebounds. He'll have games with 0 points. He'll have a game with 6 3-pointers.
Oh yeah.
Like we need a 5 make Caden Wilkins with a 7 rebound Caden Wilkins game, and that's going to be a big difference. That's probably the thing that Phoenix fans are going to need to see is what impact can he have, because as a starting forward, if he gives them 0 and 0, it is not going to look good for the Phoenix. And if he gives them 11 and 6 or 12 and 7, you're going to be feeling real good about yourself as in the last 4 minutes of that game if you're Green Bay Phoenix.
Absolutely. All right, well, let's move on to the 3 p.m. Eastern game on Sunday. Northern Kentucky is heading to Oakland. The last time these 2 teams played, Oakland was able to scrape out a win, and that was a really good. The game in Highland Heights was really good, and I do not expect any less from this game coming into the arena, especially with Northern Kentucky, who is in a spot who has the potential to, I mean, for lack of a better word, leapfrog to you know to keep themselves in the conversation for one of the top seeds in the Horizon League. Not just this game, obviously, but for the entire week. But this one is just as important as anywhere else.
Yeah, I mean, for Northern Kentucky, 2 games in the greater Detroit area, are they going to come home 8-5? Are they going to come home, 7-6? Are they going to come home 6-7? I mean, but to your greater point, opportunity
Yes.
for Northern Kentucky. Ultimately, in this particular game, Oakland has to kind of figure some stuff out at home. Like, separate of anything, as good as they have played, maybe, and this is obviously going to be a joke, maybe they should start playing all their games on the road. They're so used to playing on the road in the non-conference that the O Arena is not an advantage anymore because their last 2 games at home that did not go well for them. And, they're going to have to figure that out because when you get that home court advantage against a major opponent, in kind of a separation game in the standings, they got to be able to, as crazy as it sounds, figure out how to win at home right now. So that's a big factor
Yeah.
for the Golden Grizzlies. But you do have to kind of appreciate the coaching matchup here. You've got 2 different types of zone defenses going. This is going to be a little bit different look for
A little bit, yeah.
a little bit different look for Horizon League basketball. And Horizon League basketball is really, this year, is kind of an offensive league. If you look at there's only one team ranked in the top 200 defensively in the country. So this is an offensive league, whereas there's 4 or 5 teams in the top 200, and there's or in the top 150 offensively. There's really
Yeah.
not great defense, and yet even though nobody's playing great defense, you have 2 unique defenses going here. So this will be a fun game to watch from a different perspective.
Speaking of offensive battles rather than defensive battles, we get to close out this episode with the 3 p.m. Eastern game on Sunday with Cleveland State playing Milwaukee. The last time these 2 teams met, Cleveland State got up by double digits, and then that double-digit lead magically evaporated, and it turned into a double-digit Milwaukee win. I need
If
Cleveland State to seriously. I feel like whatever Cleveland State did against Wright State, I hope they bottled it because they're going to need that for the rest of the season, especially against Milwaukee.
Yeah, it's so crazy because Cleveland State, they're the best 3-point shooting team percentage wise. Milwaukee's one of the worst, and yet Cleveland State, like, if there's a team that as a fan watching the league, I trust less with a 10-point lead, I don't know who would be beyond Cleveland State. Like, they've got up on multiple teams. I mean, they were up 10 or more
They
on
did.
Green Bay and lost by 15
Yes.
or whatever they lost by.
Yes.
And so you love the fact that they withstood that 18-0 run against Wright State to still seal the deal, on the road. But they're just not a team that has shown yet that they can, play. They can get hot. But then what do you do when your shot's not going down? And they're not a great defensive team. They're the worst rated defensive team in the league, one of the worst rated defensive teams in the country. So they're going to have to show that fortitude of, hey, what do we do when it's not working? How do we keep ourselves together? Because they were able to get up on teams but not hold on against
Yeah.
teams. And so the Wright State game,
Or in the Wright State game, yeah, come back against those teams. So clearly, it looked like, at least in this instance, they figured that part out. Now, whether
yep.
they can do that moving forward, especially on the Wisconsin trip, which is never easy to begin with, and it's probably really hard now. That is going to be a big deal. And again, I think the other part of this is going to be Milwaukee. Of the kind of the overall health of not just specifically the front court with Milwaukee, because obviously there's going to be, depending upon what's going on with Jovanovic and Fields, we may see a completely different lineup for them. Although I have to point out with Cleveland, it didn't really matter because it was Josh Dixon and guys like Josh Dixon and Chandler Jackson who were scorching them during that game. Yeah, Stevie Elam wasn't even in this game, and he's coming back now, so.
And he came back in a major way against Youngstown State. I
That
will
he
say,
did.
interesting little plot for you, Bob, in the game at Milwaukee. Cleveland State, hot shooting team. I was just in the Panther Arena yesterday. They play indoor soccer there. I think the Cleveland Crunch are in town again. They were not,
Yes.
but that's an old school joke for Bob because I don't believe they exist anymore. The Cleveland Crunch. Anyway,
Are you
they
kidding? They absolutely 100% do.
they
They
don't.
100% do exist, and not only do they exist, they're playing at the Wolstein Center for their home games.
Are they really? Because they don't play in the MSAL, which is what the Milwaukee Wave play in. So that's why I didn't realize that they were still a thing. But anyway, I
Yeah,
was at a
they're
Wave
in
game.
another indoor soccer league, but yeah, they do still exist.
All right, they need to merge that together because that would make it a better league. But here, that's neither here nor there. Point is, the Panther Arena, because they also play hockey in that arena, it's cold, and it's right now. Living in Wisconsin. It's cold in Wisconsin. The arena was frigid. It is not going to be a shooter's gym on Sunday when this game is played, more than likely. So it's kind of just an interesting subplot of like, hey, how do you get yourself hot and ready in a building in conditions where it's not going to be ideal. So just point that out for um,
Sure.
a little subplot of this game. But again, best 3-point shooting team against the worst 3-point shooting defense. We'll see what happens. I do have to appreciate though that Coach Lundy and the Panthers would have been easy for them to pack up their stuff and quit on the season. And there's no signs of quit in them. They
No.
getting that road win at Youngstown. They're going to be hungry when they get
Oh,
this,
absolutely.
these games here at home. So, big week
Heads
of Horizon
indeed.
League basketball. You have Green Bay and Fort Wayne at home with big opportunities. You have Cleveland State and Wright State going through Wisconsin, which hasn't been kind, and Oakland, while they don't have home, um, a pair of home games, they have the right teams in Fort Wayne and NKU on their schedule. So I just think it's a really fascinating week of Horizon League basketball, and one that's going to be very telling for who is going to be playing at home on March 4th versus who is going to be going on the road.
Yes. All right. Well, that's going to wrap it up for us here on the Expand Your Horizon Preview Edition. So tune in next week. As always, you can find all of our podcast episodes, just not just this podcast episode, but the episodes of the regular podcast, which incidentally I shall be returning to on February 15th. At horizonroundtable.com, you can actually pull up all of our articles there as well. So until next week, thank you all for listening.